This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
AlternaTV.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of AlternaTV. As always, I am your host, Brandon Stransky. Got something I want to start off the show with. It wasn't originally part of the format, but I have to say something. I can't just let this go by the wayside. Of course, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've all heard about the horrible tragedy that took place in Miami yesterday. And, of course, the predictable reactions coming out of both sides before the people even get the chance to just, let them bury their dead, let them mourn. But regardless, in the midst of all the emotion, in the midst of all the calls for action, we need to, most importantly, we cannot act on emotion. I understand this. What happened was horrible. I personally could never understand what it would feel like to lose a loved one in a situation like this. I've never experienced it, and I probably will never experience it, and I just could never imagine the pain and suffering and the loss that, someone goes through over something like this. And I am deeply sympathetic to those feeling this. I feel your pain. I'm with you. This was horrible, a tragedy. Could have been prevented, should have been prevented. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, guys, we need to focus and think. We need to stop letting our emotions be our driver. We need to start using our heads again. We need to start thinking. We need to start applying logic and rationality to situations like this instead of letting our emotions control us. Because all it's going to lead to is all of us getting screwed over in the end. It's just going to be very bad for all of us. If you continue to let your emotions lead you, the enemy knows how to make you their puppet. And I'm already seeing a lot of those puppet strings attached to hearts, and they're playing around with them. They've been playing around with them for the last 24 hours, dancing like they want you guys to. Think and use your heads. Do not let these people try to use your emotions to control you. I'm seeing that happen too much today. And the thing we need to remember is, and there are facts coming out that very few people, that not enough people are focusing on in this tragedy. The FBI, months prior, knew this kid was a problem. They knew that he was going to start something. They did nothing. They sat back and let this happen. And this is, in my opinion, I firmly believe that this is another situation of problem, reaction, solution. In case you're not familiar with that, it is a Hegelian, what's known as a Hegelian dialectic, where basically those in power create a problem, and they try to or they let a problem take place, such as most likely another example of that would be 9/11, but that's another story for another day. Basically, they either create a problem or see a problem coming, and if that problem plays into their agenda, they will let it happen. So then this problem happens, and then sit back and wait for the reaction to come out, and of course it's always the desired reaction that they're looking for, and of course they're there to offer the solution that they want, that they've been trying to get to from step one, which basically led them to this and got the people to react in a way that they wanted to present the solution that they want, which usually means you and I losing more of our freedoms and our liberties. And I firmly believe that this situation would happen. I think they knew he was going to do something and didn't, and let him go. And now it's coming out, too, that a white supremacist group is claiming responsibility for it. I have no problem calling these guys terrorists. It's what it is. It's terrorism. I don't care if it's white terrorism. I don't care if it's Islam terrorism. I don't care if it's environmental eco-terrorism. Terrorism needs to end. We need to address it as such. Alright, done with that for today. Let's get into some some more lighter stuff. As if you've been following along, I've talked about my fandom for World of Warcraft. Recently, they added to their creative story team the author by the name of Christy Golden, who has written a lot of Warcraft books to kind of help bridge some of the lore in between expansions. And seeing her on the already in the Battle for Azeroth story I'm already seeing improvements by leaps and bounds. The storylines have more cohesion. There's more logic. There's not as many plot holes. They're actually taking time to fill those plot holes. Other characters who have been kind of by the wayside are getting more screen time. Gee, she sounds like someone else I know who used to write professionally. Next week, I'm going to be introducing a new segment called This Week in Doublespeak. If you know what doublespeak or double thought is, it's something, if you don't know what that is, it's something that comes from the book 1984, which refers to the ability to hold two opposing viewpoints and believe both completely opposite viewpoints and believe both of them to be true. And the example they used in the book, I believe, was something called "We've always been," where the citizens believed, like they actually seriously believed in their hearts and heads that they simultaneously had always been at war with East Asia and never been at war with East Asia, or something to that effect. So we'll be doing. So next week we'll be introducing that new segment of This Week in Doublespeak. Man, something that's been really disgusting me past week or so is the mainstream media coverage of the Kim Jong-un regime during the Olympics. Like they're plastering his sister on the front page, saying she's stealing the show. Yeah, she's stealing the show, all right, and stealing mouths from the food from the mouths of all the hungry North Koreans that are starving to death. But that's neither here nor there. Not like, you really want to. It hasn't really been much of the mainstream media to really talk down on the oppressive communist regimes. They want to try to, they think communism is a great thing, so that'll be another thing we'll get to later. And I'm sure you've all heard about the big news or the successful rocket launch that SpaceX pulled off, and they did it in a much more efficient manner. I believe it was actually cheaper than the first, if I saw the chart correctly, they actually pulled it off cheaper and more efficiently than we did back in the 60s when we did our first rocket launch. And that got me thinking, why not sell NASA to SpaceX? I mean, hasn't really done much in the last few decades, to be honest. Certainly not the heights that it's been since the original Apollo missions. Why not sell that to a guy? Why not take it off the burden of the taxpayers and sell it to somebody who could do amazing things with it? Like, I would love to see what a guy like Elon Musk could do with the resources at NASA. Now, granted, of course, there'd have to be some, conditions of the sale. If you do X and X, and then the sale, and then the property reverts back to the U.S. government, something to that effect. And we're introducing a new segment this week when it comes to the professional wrestling business. I like to call "Cutting Tall Tales Off at the Knees." And one that I happened to come across while searching for some Meltzer tweets to send in for CTM, I came across something where they brought up the discussion again of what was the highest rated segment in Raw's history. And of course, Dave Meltzer keeps jumping on the Austin Taker match from June 1999, which was a 9.5. However, the problem is that they continue to push this number as the entire segment, when in actuality, that number was actually the overrun portion of the match, which basically means was any part of the match that went from 10 o'clock, which is when the show was supposed to be over, till when the show actually ended. So it could have been that 9.5 was probably, I would have to guess, probably went from 10 o'clock to 10:05. Not the entire match, but that doesn't let the guys who want to push their agenda and revisionist history in their dirt sheets from actually doing a little research and finding that out for themselves. And lastly, before I get to my big prediction that I brought out on Twitter, I'm sure some of you probably heard the news that Formula One is getting rid of their grid girls because because enough complaints came in where they found it sexist. They think it's oppressing to women and degrading to women. And It's just this stuff's out of control. It's getting way out of control with trying too hard to be PC, trying too hard. We can't look at women. We can't find them attractive unless they're attractive in this particular manner. And it's getting ridiculous. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. And the best part about this, the best part was the response from the grid girls themselves when they got the news. Oh, thanks, ladies. Your feminism just cost us a job and a paycheck. Appreciate it. Thanks.
If you can't control your freaking wiener
You're wishing this was on Realm Network. Well, what in the hell did you think the casting
for
couch
the
was?
sake of entertainment purposes, that was good podcasting.
We're in the ratings business.
Yes! Jim Cornette makes an appearance on Bucket Full of Chicken Necks. A bucket full of chicken necks. Are there any happy endings?
Jabron.
From the FBI show, the School of Rock from Staten Island, New York, covers men that everywhere address the Pavarotti of hard drugs, the party of Python got it going on.
Alright, so the big prediction. As I've mentioned on a previous show, I've been currently reading the book The Perestroika Deception, which was written by an ex-KGB intelligence operative who defected to the United States in the early 1960s. The book itself is actually a series of memorandums written from the mid-80s to the, I believe the latest one was during the Clinton administration in '93. These are a series of memorandums that this ex-KGB defector had written to the a series of memorandums written by him to the United States or to the Central Intelligence Agency, warning them of a long-range plan known as Perestroika to deceive the West, making them think that communism had failed. We're going to be moving towards a more capitalist free market society, and we need your help to pull that off. Which is, of course, that's basically the core idea of the deception itself, when in actuality, they never fell. They kind of went into hiding and infiltrated themselves amongst the dissent groups, opposition groups, controlled opposition, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. But anyway, yeah, that's basically, and their end game is, of course, what's known as a new world communist order. And they want to achieve that. I believe that, and I firmly believe that this conspiracy, this deception, was the monolithic, ruthless conspiracy that JFK alluded to, because this author had actually spoken with Robert Kennedy, JFK's brother, while he was Attorney General. So I have no doubt in my mind that JFK was made aware of these. In fact, it kind of shed some new light that that the Soviets may have also been involved in his assassination. If Kennedy took any of this seriously, he was now a threat and needed to be neutralized. Anyway, of course, I just mentioned the end goal is a new world communist order. And how they plan to do this is, and they have some other goals, some of their smaller goals, and to reach this larger one are as follows: split the U.S. from their Western European allies, undermine NATO, potentially use the United Nations as a building block for their New World Communist Order, deceive the West and disarm the West through perestroika, create socialism with a human face, which they've actually succeeded in doing here in the United States. If it's kind of not too hard to figure that out, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, I'm calling him out. I'm putting him on blast. I think he's a Soviet-controlled opposition pawn. And I want to go with a couple quotes too from some very prominent people involved in the USSR Soviet's history. Who was it? V.I. Lenin, the founder of the Soviet Union, or the first dictator of the Soviet Union, once said, "Democracy is indispensable to socialism." And Karl Marx, of course, the author of the Communist Manifesto, is quoted as saying, "Socialism always leads to communism." So you see, we actually have an actual pipeline from democracy to socialism to communism. It's a slippery slope that we need to stop ourselves on. But going further, and they will achieve those things through, and here's some of the ways that they plan to achieve some of those goals. Using their agents of influence, controlled opposition groups in the media, academics, science, politics, and religion. And they've also used in the past to get this, to spread their influence and to try to get their controlled opposition plans in Eastern Europe. They've actually backed and supported anti-Semite groups. So that's not, so it's definitely within their wheelhouse to do that same thing over here. It would not surprise me if you do some digging and searching some of these white supremacist groups in the United States. It would not surprise me to find there's probably some Soviet, even Masonic ties to them. I'd be willing to bet money on that. Blackmail of conservative politicians. But anyway, yes, that is their goal, and here's my prediction. And you guys need to read this. You guys really, really should read this book. I admit my explanations are not that great. And I apologize in advance. I'm just trying to get you guys thinking that, you know, maybe what I've been told all my life isn't exactly, you know, what I've been conditioned to through school, through my education, through the media, through my, you know, just through basically everything that affects you on a day-to-day life may not be true and may not exactly be what it is on the surface. That's my end goal. That's what I'm trying to do. But anyway, here's my prediction. You guys ready? Here it is. I believe that Donald J. Trump is a Soviet pawn. Does he know that, or whether he knows that or not, it's kind of up for debate. Do the people that are around him aware, or are the people around him, his handlers, aware of him being a Soviet pawn? I have no doubt. Groups, the resistance, Democrats, Antifa, they are Soviet-controlled opposition. White supremacist groups in this country, I believe they are having their strings pulled by the Soviets as well as other Masonic and New World Order splinter groups. And I believe what the end game is, I believe what they're trying to do with Trump is destroy any lasting faith in American culture, American values, and the American constitutions and freedom and liberty. I believe his role in this is to just completely destroy the foundation of America, completely demonize it to the point where nobody wants to be associated with America. You can already see people, citizens of this country, ashamed to fly their flag. The conditioning's working. The conditioning is working. I'm seeing people nowadays, they're flying the hammer and sickle. I firmly believe that we are being attacked from all sides. They are controlling our opposition. And I believe Donald Trump and the Republicans' role in all this is to try to demonize and discredit freedom, liberty, American values and culture, and the Constitution of the United States to create a more appealing alternative in the form of Marxism, communism, socialism. That I firmly believe that's why it is growing as much as it is. I believe that our schools, our media, our government, our intelligence operatives, our intelligence agencies have been infiltrated by these guys, as much as I hate to say it, and Joseph McCarthy was absolutely right. We're screwed, guys, and we need to open our eyes and figure out and figure out who is really behind this, who is pulling the strings, who are the puppet masters. Step 1, cut your own puppet strings off. That's what I'm trying to do for you guys. I'm trying to show you those strings. I can show you your puppet strings, but you have to be the one to cut them off. Anyway, that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, good night, and God bless each and every one.
I'll show you. You'll see.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.